Namaskar. Today we will discuss about biodiversity hotspots. The hotspots of the biodiversity are specific areas of the earth which are having disproportionately higher extinct species. The criteria of biodiversity hotspots are that the region who are having a very high endemic species, native species, and are facing the danger of extinction are categorized into biodiversity hotspot. The hotspot of biodiversity gives a means or provide a mean to focus on the area which require higher conservation priorities and preservation or conservation of biodiversity. As far as history of biodiversity hotspot is concerned, the term was introduced by Norman Maier in 1980. In 1988, in his seminal paper, the Norman Maier has identified 10 tropical hotspot or tropical forest hotspots on the basis of their extraordinary native species and threat to those species by various anthropogenic activities. Later, by a global survey, he added 8 more hotspots in this 10 earlier hotspots. So, making the number of hotspots 18. Initially, these hotspots, the criteria of species which are facing the danger or extinct species or endemic species, they consider only on higher plant taxa. With the Conservation International, the Maier again did a vast global survey and included 7 more hotspots of biodiversity, making the total number of biodiversity hotspots at the time 2000 that 25. These 25 hotspots are identified not only on the basis of higher plant taxa but also smaller like amphibian, reptile, birds, etc. The criteria for these hotspots are that in this area at least 1500 species, endemic vascular species should be there, and second that at least 30% of the habitat should be left, means 70% habitat is destroyed but at least 30% habitat should be saved. So, there are Norman Maier identified 25 hotspots. Now, there are 34 hotspots. These hotspots are found in different regions of the earth, but amazingly the number of biodiversity, the number of endemic species that is found in this hotspot is enormous. So, coming to the definition of biodiversity hotspot, a biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographical region with a significant reservoir of biodiversity that is under threat from human. First criteria, that it should be rich in biodiversity, it should have number of native species, it should have more species, and the second thing that it is facing the threats from human, or the species are facing the danger of extinction. The criteria for identifying the hotspot is that a particular area it must contain at least 0.5% or 1500 species of vascular plant as endemics or native, and then it has to have lost at least 70% of its primary vegetation, which means at least 30% of primary vegetation should be there to protect or to conserve. If we see that collectively the biodiversity hotspot, it holds 50% of the vascular plant which is found in the earth and 42% of the terrestrial vertebrate, that includes amphibian, mammals, birds and reptile as endemic. So, 50% of the vascular plant and 42% of the terrestrial vertebrates are found in this biodiversity 34 biodiversity hotspot. These biodiversity hotspots, they covered a land area of 23.7 million kilometers square or 59% of the earth's land surface. If you see, the land area is 23.7 million kilometers square and the surface is 15.9%. But if you see the habitat, it's total, it concentrate on 2.3% of the world's land area. So these concentrate on only 2.3% of land area. Coming to the 34 hotspot of the world, in North and Central America, the 5 hotspots are found. These are California Floristic Province, Caribbean Island, Mediterranean Pine Oak Woodlands, Mesoamerica. In South America, Atlantic Forest, Cerrado, Chilean Winter Rainfall Valdivian Forest, Tumbes, Choco, Magdalena, Tropical Andes. In Europe and Central Asia, Caucasus, Irano-Anatolian, Mediterranean Basin, mountains of Central Asia. In Africa region, Cape Floristic region, coastal forest of Eastern Africa, Eastern Afro-Montane, Ghanaian forest of West Africa. Again, in South Asia, Eastern Himalaya, Indo-Burma, Western Ghat in Sri Lanka. So in India, there are 4 hotspots of biodiversity are found. One is Eastern Himalaya, Indo-Burma, Western Ghat in Sri Lanka, and one more is Sundaland. In Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific, East Melanesian Island, New Caledonia, New Zealand, and Philippines. In Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific, Polynesia, Micronesia, Southwest Australia, Sundaland, and Wallacea. And in East Asia, Japan, and mountains of Southwest China. Coming to these hotspots and their diversity one by one, we'll cover all the 34 hotspots of biodiversity over here and their specific feature. Coming to the Atlantic forest, this Atlantic forest is a home or housing 20,000 plant species, 40% of which are endemic. It has 24 critically endangered vertebrate, which include 3 species of lion tamarins. This hotspot have 6 bird species that are restricted to the small patch of forest near the Muriqui Ecological Station in northeastern Brazil. The second hotspot, California Floristic Province. In California Floristic Province, there is high level of plant endemism is characteristic of this region. The hotspot is home to the giant sequoia, which is the tallest tree in the world, and there are a number of threatened endemic species such as giant kangaroo rat and the desert cylinder salamander. In Cape Floristic region, this Cape Floristic region is one of the world's 5 Mediterranean hotspots. It is the only hotspot that encompasses an entire flora kingdom and holds 5 of South Africa's 12 endemic plant families and 160 endemic genera. The Caribbean island. The Caribbean island is having a very diverse ecosystem which range from montane cloud forests to cactus scrublands. The boasting of the world's smallest bird, that is tinny bee hummingbird, we all know about hummingbird, and smallest snake Leptotyphus bilineatus is also found in this or endemic of this Caribbean island. Then Caucasus hotspot. It's the desert, savanna, arid woodland and forest. They all comprise different type of ecosystem. They comprise the Caucasus hotspot. It contains large number of endemic plant species. Cerrado. The Cerrado region of Brazil, comprising 25% of the country, is the most extensive woodland savanna in South America. Large mammals such as the giant anteater, giant armadillo, jaguar and maned wolf also still survive in this hotspot. Chilean winter rainfall Valdivian forest. The Araucaria tree has been declared a national monument in itself to protect it from logging. Here I wanted to make a point clear that these hotspots are facing the danger of species extinction. What is the reason? The main reason is anthropogenic activities, cutting of tree, clearing of tree, logging, or other activities for wood or non-timber product, the harvesting of various product or hunting, poaching. All these activities are leading to the species extinction. So just to save these species from elimination, from becoming extinction, these hotspot has been identified and specific conservation strategies and conservation practices, conservation policies have been framed in order to conserve the species which are becoming extinct or which are endangered or which may become endangered if the anthropogenic activity which are the reason for endangering, making this species endangering. So in that way, in Chilean winter rainfall Valdivian forest, the Araucaria tree, because it is becoming extinct or it is becoming endangered, it has been declared as national monument, so to protect it from logging. Then the rare Andean cat, mountain visaka, and Andean condor can also be found in the hotspot. Coastal forest of Eastern Africa. This hotspot contains the 40,000 cultivated variety of African violet, which forms the basis of $100 million global houseplant trade. They all are derived from a handful of species found in the coastal Tanzanian and Kenyan forest. East Melanesian Island. The 1,600 East Melanesian Island are a hotspot, sadly due to accelerating levels of habitat loss. Either in all these hotspots, either there is habitat loss, habitat degradation, habitat fragmentation, and the driver of this habitat loss, fragmentation or degradation are many. Maybe they are overexploitation of natural resources, pollution, expansion of land because of crop cultivation, or for overpopulation, and recently climate change has also been found a very important or prominent or dominant driver for making this species loss in this hotspot and in particular all over the world in general. So the region is one of the most geographical complex area on earth. Eastern Afro-Montane. The mountains of the Eastern Afro-Montane hotspots are scattered along the eastern edge of Africa, from Saudi Arabia in the north to Zimbabwe in the south. The Albertine Rift harbors more endemic mammals, birds, and amphibians than any other region in Africa. Guianan Forest of West Africa. The lowland forests of West Africa are home to more than 1/4 of Africa's mammal, including more than 20 species of primates. 5 endemic birds areas lie partly or entirely within the hotspot. Himalaya. This is one of the Indian hotspot, and the Himalaya hotspot is home to the world's highest mountain, including Mount Everest. The mountains rise abruptly, resulting in a diversity of ecosystem that range from alluvial grasslands and subtropical broadleaf forests to alpine meadows above the tree line. The vascular plants in Himalaya region have been recorded at more than 6,000 meters. This hotspot is home to important population of numerous large birds and mammals, which includes vulture, tiger, elephants, rhinos, and wild water buffalo. Horn of Africa. The Horn of Africa is one of the only 2 hotspots that is entirely arid. The area is home to a number of endemic and threatened antelope species and more endemic reptiles than any other region in Africa. The Horn is also one of the most degraded hotspots in the world, with only about 5% of its original habitat remaining. Indo-Burma. Indo-Burma is also one of the hotspot or Indian hotspot. It encompasses more than 2 million square kilometers of tropical Asia. Indo-Burma is still revealing its biological treasure. Irano-Anatolian. Nearly 400 plant species are found only along the Anatolian diagonal, a floristic line that crosses Inner Anatolia. Many of the Turkey's 1,200 endemic species occur only to the immediate east or west of it. Japan. More than 300 islands that make up the Japanese archipelago stretch from the humid subtropics in the south to the boreal zone in the north, resulting in a wide variety of climates and ecosystem. Madagascar and Indian Ocean Island. Madagascar and its neighboring island groups have an astounding total of 8 plant families, 5 birds families and 5 primates family that live nowhere else on earth. By this, we can imagine the kind of diversity that is present into the earth, into this Madagascar and Indian Ocean island. Same time, we can also realize that the human greed, like Mahatma Gandhi has said, that there is enough for human need but not greed. So because of human greed, this beautiful biodiversity, this beautiful species which provides different type of ecosystem services to us are on the verge of facing extinction or endangered. Then Madrian pine oak woodlands. 1/4 of all Mexico's plant species are found here, many of them found nowhere else on earth. The pine forest of Michoacan provide famous overwintering sites for the annual migration of millions of monarch butterfly. Maputaland, Pondeland, Albany. This region, warm temperate forests are home to nearly 600 tree species, the highest tree richness of any temperate forest on the planet is found in this hotspot of biodiversity. Mediterranean Basin. The flora of the Mediterranean Basin is dramatic. Its 22,500 endemic vascular plant species are more than 4 times the number found in all the rest of the Europe. This hotspot also supports many endemic reptile species. Mesoamerica. The Mesoamerica forests are the 3rd largest among the world's hotspots. Their spectacular endemic species include quetzals, howler monkeys, and approximately 17,000 plant species. Mountains of Central Asia. The hotspots ecosystem range from glacier to desert and include a highly threatened type of walnut fruit forest, unique to this region, which contains ancestors of domestic fruit varieties, and it is important storehouse of genetic diversity. We know that diversity can be species diversity, genetic diversity, or ecosystem diversity. In this mountain of Central Asia is an important storehouse of genetic diversity, and there are ancestors of domestic fruits and varieties. Then mountains of southwest China. With dramatic variation in climate and topography, the mountains of southwest China support a wide array of habitats, including the most endemic rich temperate flora in the world. The global monkey, giant panda, red panda, and number of pheasants are among the threatened species endemic to this hotspot. New Caledonia. New Caledonia claims the world's only parasitic conifers, and nearly 2/3 of the world's species of Araucaria are endemic to this place. The various activity, anthropogenic activity like nickel mining, forest destruction, and invasive species threatens fauna like the kagu, which is an endangered bird with a distinct crest that is the only surviving member of its family. Here I want to again repeat that there are number of drivers which are responsible for the loss of biodiversity. Invasive alien species is also among them. The invasive alien species is the species which is not native of that particular area and it's being transported from other area and it competes with the native species for its nutrient, water or other things, and sometimes it completely eliminates the native species or threatens the native species in a very big way. So, in this area, New Caledonia hotspot, the invasive species has threatened a very important fauna, that is kagu, which is an endangered bird and it is the only surviving member of its family and it is facing the danger of extinction. Then New Zealand. None of its mammal, amphibian or reptile is found anywhere else in the world. You can now very well imagine that if these species are being lost, we cannot found these species anywhere else in the world. Invasive species, again in New Zealand, the most serious threat to the flora and fauna of New Zealand island. And the hotspot has suffered 50 bird extinctions in the island colonization by humans 700 years ago. Philippines. More than 7,100 islands fall within the border of the Philippines hotspot, and this is identified as one of the world's biological richest country. Many endemic species are confined to the forest fragments that cover only 7% of the original extent of the hotspot. These include Cebu flowerpecker, the golden crown flying fox, the Philippine cockatoo, the Visayan wrinkled hornbill, the Negros forest frog, and the enormous Philippines eagle. Polynesia, Micronesia. This hotspot comprises 1,415 islands stretched across the southern Pacific Ocean. The Polynesia, Micronesia hotspot is the epicenter of the current global extinction crisis. 25 bird species have gone extinct here since the arrival of the Europeans 200 years ago, victims of introduced invasive species and overhunting. Southwest Australia. The forest woodlands, shrublands and health of Southwest Australia are characterized by high endemism among plants and reptiles. Succulent Karo. The succulent Karo of South Africa and Namibia boasts the richest succulent flora on earth as well as remarkable endemism in plant, reptiles and invertebrate. Sundaland. Sundaland is also a part of Indian hotspot. The spectacular flora and fauna of the Sundaland hotspots are succumbing to the explosive growth of industrial forestry in this island and to the international animal trades that claims tiger, monkey, turtle species for food and medicine in other countries. Tropical Andes. The richest and most diverse region on the earth, the tropical Andes region contains about 1/6 of all plants life in less than 1% of the land area. The threatened yellow-eared parrot, yellow-tailed woolly monkey and spectacled bear are all endemic to the tropical Andes. Tumbes choco magdalena. Tumbes Choco Magdalena is bordered by two other hotspots, Mesoamerica to the north and the tropical Andes to the earth. Endemic animal species like the bare-necked umbrella bird and the bright-colored poison dart frog are characteristic of this region. Wallacea. This hotspot is second only to the tropical Andes in terms of bird endemism, which is particularly impressive given its relatively small land area. The world's largest lizard, the Komodo dragon, is restricted to the island of Komodo, Padar, Rinca and Flores in the Wallace hotspot. Western Ghat in Sri Lanka, this is also part of Indian hotspot. It is faced with tremendous population pressure and the forests have been dramatically impacted by the demand for timber and agriculture land. Remaining forests are heavily fragmented. In Sri Lanka, only 1.5% of the original forests remain. Home to rich endemic assemblages of plants, reptiles and amphibians, important population of Asian elephants, Indian tigers and the endangered lion-tailed macaque. So, to summarize, in nutshell, there are 34 hotspots are identified across the world. These hotspots, the main criteria for identifying this hotspot are: one is number of endemic species and the degree of danger that or threat that is posed into this hotspots. The criteria is to make a hotspot is that it should have at least 1500 species of vascular species and at least 30% of the habitat is there or in other words 70% of habitat is being lost. So, in the world 34 hotspots are found. India is home of 4 hotspots and which are having very high rich biodiversity region or highly endemic species. But you can see that these all hotspots are facing a danger or species are facing the danger of extinction. The reason being is overexploitation, overpopulation, invasive alien species, habitat destruction, habitat fragmentation and climate change. Thank you.